Welcome to Elevate. I'm Rachel, and this is Nikki.
Hi, Rachel.
We're here to bring you the best insights from local wellness experts, helping you elevate your health, one simple step at a time.
Don't forget to sign up for our newsletter for curated wellness tips. You can watch this episode on YouTube or Spotify, or listen on Apple Podcast at Elevate Wellness.
On this episode of Elevate.
So my job is to help you to visualize that person that you want to be. And the more that you visualize something, the more it comes. So we have two realities. We have, the reality that we're living in now, and we have the reality in our head. And in order to change our current reality, we need to change what we think about in our head. So how do you want to eat? The future you, how do you eat? How do you exercise? What are your relationships like? How do you spend your time? How do you indulge? What does that future you look like? And a lot of people say that a coach is your accountability partner. And I like to argue that I want you to be accountable for yourself.
Our guest today on Elevate is Maryann Loucks. She is a health coach who helps midlife women reclaim their energy, confidence, and sense of well-being through simple, sustainable lifestyle shifts. In this conversation, Maryann shares her journey from teacher to health coach and how her own experiences with autoimmune conditions shaped her mission. She introduces her GPS model, goal setting, planning, and shifting as a framework for creating meaningful, lasting change. Maryann also highlights the common struggles midlife women face, from weight gain to energy loss, and offers practical, sustainable strategies to improve health. The discussion explores the role of relationships, the power of mindset, and the importance of tracking progress as women navigate this season of life with greater confidence and balance. We hope you enjoy our conversation with Maryann as much as we did. Let's get started.
Welcome, Maryann, to Elevate. We're so excited to have you.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be with you guys today.
Absolutely. We know you are going to bring a lot of good information to the table today. So thanks so much for joining us.
Yeah, I'm ready to dive in. I know you've dedicated your work to helping midlife women feel more energized and confident through simple, sustainable shifts. But before we get into all of that goodness that I cannot wait for everybody to hear about, can you tell us how you took this journey from education to health coaching and how midlife women became the heart of your mission?
Yeah, sure. So in my previous life, I was a teacher for 25 years. I taught in upstate New York, multiple levels. Spent a lot of my life in fourth grade, but the last part of my career, I did professional development. So during that time, I was able to learn cognitive coaching, and I ended up being a cognitive coaching trainer for our region. And I worked for what's called a BOCES, Board of Cooperative Educational Services, and we serviced 14 different districts, 40 different schools. And I coached teachers, administrators, guidance counselors on cognitive coaching. And what that is basically helping people figure out, where they are, where they want to be, and helping them get a plan to get there. In 2019, my husband and I moved to South Carolina. During that time, I had just finished my yoga teacher training. My kids, our two older kids, moved to Greenville, South Carolina. We were coming down here. We had always vacationed in South Carolina, so we're like, let's move there. He had retired, and I just resigned. And at that time, too, I have an autoimmune condition called alopecia, and it caused me to lose my hair. So during this time, I was leaving a career. My role as a mom was changing. We were moving to a new place. And when I looked in the mirror, I just didn't even recognize myself anymore.
Wow.
And it was one of those situations in life where you could curl up in a ball and, just kind of say, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? Or you could pick yourself up by your bootstraps and say, okay, what am I going to do with this? So I decided to take my passion for education, and I pursued my certificate in functional nutrition counseling because I really wanted to know what was going on with me. And I was 48, 49 years old at the time. And, I didn't really realize I was going through perimenopause and my body was changing. And, this autoimmune condition is happening to me. So I pursued my certificate in functional nutrition counseling, decided that I'm going through this. There's other people in the world going through this as well. And I started coaching. I just kind of put myself out there and started coaching, because sometimes when you help others and teach others, you learn more yourself. Yeah. And that has kind of evolved over the last 6 years or so now. And I did some work at a weight loss clinic because I found that a lot of women in midlife are struggling with weight gain. They've spent their whole lives basically taking care of other people, their jobs or whatever. And now they're like, oh my gosh, it's time for me to take care of myself. And what happened? So that's how I got to where I am. And I always think, I think, Rachel, you and I had talked before about how, your pain becomes your purpose. And that's exactly what happened with me. So,
wow, that's quite the journey. It's interesting. I feel like we hear this often, and Rachel would probably agree with this. Oftentimes, women, especially, in order to feel better, we start on this journey ourselves of seeking the information from whatever's going on in our life, whether it's an autoimmune issue like with you had with alopecia. And we have to become our own advocates. And it's hard to find people like you, Maryann, that are in it with us, that are already finding the information for us. But it seems to be a similar story of people. I have found myself in this situation and I don't know where to turn. So thank goodness people like you are taking that role and saying, I want to be the coach. I want to get the information out there because I've lived it. And that's relatable and important, I think, especially for women in this midlife journey.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you really took charge there. Yeah. From, being a cognitive coach and learning or teaching others how to take small steps for bigger change, right? To having this, I'm sure, overwhelming diagnosis.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And how did you apply those concepts yourself when you were diagnosed?
Yeah. Well, it was a process. And years ago, my daughter was my hairstylist years ago. So she's the one who kind of started noticing. She's like, Mom, you have like these patches. And then what happened is it gradually it was like the receding hairline kind of thing. And then eventually it just all fell out. And I do wear a wig for inquiring minds who want to know. This is a wig. I wear wigs now. But for the first couple of years, I did not, because I had to be okay looking in the mirror at myself, because it was just a different person looking back at me. And a couple of reasons I put the wig on was, number one, I was cold, because it's cold with no hair. It really is. And also, a lot of people asked me about my cancer, and I didn't have cancer, and it was emotionally, and they meant no harm. I'm just the kind of person that people have no problem coming up to me and saying, oh, how long have you been a survivor? And I heard some amazing stories from people. But what I did, going back to your question, Rachel, was in functional nutrition counseling, what we do is we get to root causes. And the thing that bothered me, and bothers a lot of people also, is the why. Like, why did this happen to me? What did I do? I felt guilty. What did I do to myself? What did I do? And when I did my health history, and I looked back from my health history, like from before I was born, and went through everything, I could pinpoint things in my life that happened that caused this autoimmune condition. It's inflammation. As women, childbirth, if you've given birth to children, that's trauma to your body. I donated a kidney. That's trauma to your body. Emotional stress, physical stress, work stress. So there was a lot of things. So once I got to the point where I could understand why, and it wasn't my fault, I think sometimes we blame ourselves. Oh, I should have done this, should have done that. Then I was able to embrace the fact that, okay, this is what you have been dealt with. This is why it happened. What are you going to do now? Mm-hmm. So in functional nutrition, we focus on 5 key areas. We focus on sleep, nutrition, exercise, stress, and relationships. So my focus with my own health and my clients that I work with is to get those baseline things under control. Sometimes it's as simple as sleep. I have a client who was struggling with sleep at night. She couldn't get to bed till 1 o'clock. Wasn't sleeping well. Well, come to dig in a little bit further, she's taking a nap at 8 o'clock at night and then getting up and taking her shower. So I said, sometimes it's the simplest things that we can't see in our own head because we're living in it. And then I'm able to give a different perspective. So I was able to apply functional nutrition to my own situation and understand and make a plan for my health. And that's what I do for others as well.
Yeah, that's incredible. So there is no cure for alopecia at this point, or how does that work for you?
Actually, everyone is very different. So
Okay.
I've come across, and I kind of thought having alopecia that was going to be my niche that I worked with, but it's actually not. But I do come across a lot of people, and sometimes it's situational where they'll have a very high stress time, because that's what the doctors and dermatologists told me. Oh, it's stress. And I'm like, well, everybody has stress.
Yeah,
Some
I was
people
going to
get
say
ulcers,
everybody's
some people lose
stressed.
their hair.
Yeah.
But I have met many people that, their hair does grow back. And mine did grow back for a while. I had some like quarter size things, in the back.
Mm-hmm.
But I think what happens, from my understanding, is that if my hair's been gone for so many years now, that there's actual like scar tissue from the roots. So I have a little teeny tiny fuzzy here and there, but nothing to, be proud of. But yeah, everybody's situation is different. And that's why I choose who I tell this to, because I don't want people to freak out and think, oh, I'm losing my hair, it's going to all fall out. It may not. Everybody's very different, and it depends on your immune system and your body. And my daughter had called one time, and she was losing some hair. She's like, Mom, and I'm like, it's not hereditary. And for her, she was in the OR all the time, so she always had her hair pulled back, and it was like more traction alopecia. And then she ended up, it ended up growing back for her. But it's very different for everybody. Just like anything health-wise, it's very individualized. So if you have some alopecia, don't think it's all going to fall out. It's,
Yeah, well, we are all very different, but
Mhm.
there are some common issues that I think we all go through as well during seasons of our life. What would you say is one of the biggest issues that you hear from women during this midlife time as you try to help them?
Yeah, the big ones that I hear, number one is weight gain. That's something that a lot of women are struggling with. And the old eat less, exercise more doesn't necessarily work. Our
Right.
hormones are fluctuating all over the place in midlife, anywhere from your 40s to your 60s. Typically, things are changing. And the other is energy. I don't have the energy I used to have. Brain fog is sometimes very prevalent. Also, just the fact of getting good quality sleep. So I really try to work on, like I said, those 5 foundational things to help baseline, but sometimes they need a little bit more. And a lot of times it is hormones at this point in our lives.
You just spoke to so many of
Yeah.
us and those that are listening. Energy, brain fog, weight loss resistance, frustration, stress, hormones. Those are like such hot topics. And so many feel as though they're not getting anywhere with their journey. So when you say that you help women walk through healthier sleep hygiene or nutrition and exercise or movement, do you work with them on all of those categories at the same time? How do you create a program and individualize a program for them?
Yeah, so I have designed my program is, I call it the GPS model. So in coaching, what we do is we help you get from where you are to where you want to be. So similar to going on a trip where you start at home and you plug in a destination in your GPS and your car gets you there. I do the same thing with coaching. So I call it the GPS model because the G starts with goals. So if you don't know where you're going, if you don't have a specific destination in mind, you're not going to get anywhere. You're going to go somewhere, but you're not going to get anywhere. So I work with women on goal setting. And it's great to say, oh, let's set goals and, all that. Oh, that's great. But the problem is that we have challenges and obstacles. So in the journey, going on a trip model, it's the construction or the detour or whatever. So the P in my GPS model is the planning. So what we do is we plan for what those challenges are. So for example, if you are a woman and your goal is to lose 10 pounds by, in 12 weeks or whatever it may be, we're going to talk about what those obstacles are. What's going to derail you? Is it the Friday night pizza with your family? Is it your girlfriends who like to go out for, wind down on Wednesday? What are those obstacles? And then I help them make a plan that's going to work for them. So that's where some of these other some of those 5 areas come in. So it might not only be just about nutrition, but maybe it's, managing your sleep. Maybe it's getting exercise in. Maybe it is resilience to stress. Maybe we're going to start doing some meditation, prayer, or journaling. So there's a lot of different things that go into that planning piece. The S part of the GPS model. So we've got goals, we've got planning, and then we've got shifting. So when I meet with people on a weekly or biweekly basis, we'll come back and we're going to look at the plan and we're going to say what's working and what's not working, and then we're going to shift. So it's an iterative process where we go back and we set goals. Once we reach those goals, we'll set new goals. So it's goals, planning, and shifting. And during that, and like you said, Rachel, I do address all 5 of those different areas. Some might be a little bit heavier than others, but they're all addressed throughout the process.
I love that. I love that system. I'm actually curious though, because you talked about, my girls want to have a wine night, or we're going to have Friday night pizza. How do you help them actually live a fulfilling life and doing some things that are fun while you're trying to make those changes that can often be very difficult? I mean, I've experienced the weight gain later in life, and I feel like I've tried to be so active, but I still want to have a life. I don't want to just be on this track where I'm not having any fun, so to speak. So how do you work with women on that?
Yeah, that's a great question, because I think people think that, we can't, it's either you're all in or nothing.
Or not.
And
yeah.
If you deprive yourself of things that define a quality of life for you, you're just going to throw in the towel. So I'll use the pizza and the Wind Down Wednesday for an example, because those are I think most people can relate to something like that. So family orders pizza, it's pizza and a movie night, let's say, every Friday night. Well, what's your pizza look like? Does your pizza have to be, from the pizza parlor with the cheese and the pepperoni, or could you possibly do homemade pizza? Could you do a homemade pizza where maybe you're using some cauliflower crust, or, you're putting veggies on your pizza? And are you eating 3 slices of pizza, or are you going to have 1 slice of pizza? Yeah. Can you have a salad on the side? So, there's just ways to take you from the extreme to what's manageable. And sometimes it is just, I call it planning indulgences. So a lot of people will say, oh, it's my cheat day. But I feel like, you know what? Cheat gives you like the wrong kind of connotation. Like you're doing something naughty. So I like to say, let's plan your indulgences. So I have a client right now. She's a college student, and she is, she's doing the college student thing, and we plan her indulgences. So her 2 indulgences are wing night, and she lives right near a frozen yogurt place. So I say, okay, what's going to be your indulgence this week? Okay. So we'll plan that ahead of time. The more intentional you are, the better. Now, as far as the Wind Down Wednesday, some people are going more of the, not alcoholic route. They're drinking less alcohol. If you typically go out and you have 2 or 3 glasses of wine, can you have 1 glass of wine? If you want to not drink wine, can you find mocktails? There's some super great mocktail recipes out there, like fake mojitos and all these fun things. So it's about trying to find, and if you're the person who, this is where the relationship part comes in, honestly. If you are surrounding yourself with people who aren't on the same path as you, and they're derailing you from what's most important to you, you need to rethink those relationships. And I think that a lot of people think, well, all my friends do it. And, I'll use the example of a smoker. If you're trying to quit smoking and all your friends are smokers and you're smoking with the people outside at work, how easy is it going to be for you to really quit smoking? Yeah. So I really encourage people to evaluate their relationships, because if you have a group of friends that go out and they're going to give you a hard time about not drinking with them, then are those the people that you really want to spend your time with?
That's a hard one, though, if you have friendships, that's actually another episode on how to handle that change in your life. But I get it. It makes sense, So it's a lot to think about if you really want to change the trajectory of your health and feel better. Yeah. So I love the fact that you're actually working with college students as well. So
I heard that too. Yes.
yeah, you are, it's just not this midlife gals that need guidance. We all can benefit from the information and your planning and your strategies to help us live a healthier, happy life, but also a fun life, to,
Yeah.
and the not having a cheap day, but planning for an indulgence. It's a beautiful way to think about it. And isn't that what it's all about? A lot of it is so much up here and how we change our thinking.
Exactly. And that's one thing that is an underlying theme throughout all the work that I do with people is I want people to think about their future self. So in my first consultation with anyone, I ask them, where do you want to be a year from now? What does it look like and feel like if you're exactly where you want to be with your health? And then I'll think about, especially women in midlife, I'll say, where do you want to be in 20 years? And a lot of them are getting to the point where they may be grandparents. Maybe they want to travel. They want to, I've had some, of my weight loss clients will say, I want to be able to fit in the seat of an airplane so I can travel and go where I want to go.
Wow.
So my job is to help you to visualize that person that you want to be. And the more that you visualize something, the more it comes. So we have two realities. We have the reality that we're living in now, and we have the reality in our head. And in order to change our current reality, we need to change what we think about in our head. So how do you want to eat? The future you, how do you eat? How do you exercise? What are your relationships like? How do you spend your time? How do you indulge? What does that future you look like? And a lot of people say that a coach is your accountability partner. And I like to argue that I want you to be accountable for yourself. Mm-hmm. So I want you to be able to count on yourself, because when it all comes down in the end, we're all we've got. We can't always rely on somebody else. So I really try to empower people to become stronger in what their vision is for their life and to put things into place to help them get there.
Preach it, sister. That was amen. Amen. I love that. Yes.
It's easier said than done, though. It is a process for sure.
Maryann, I can see the impact that coaching can have for somebody at any place in their life to start with you now and continue with you through the seasons, because you help them where they are and make modification and shifts to what they're doing so that they can level up to be the best version that they're wanting to be in health and life, right? And we're constantly changing. We're going through seasons, such as the midlife women that you have a heart for, or the younger college student. You're literally helping them set their GPS and their navigation tool to head in the right direction. And I think that we need this type of coaching now more than ever, because we're inundated with so many messages, so many fad diets, so many different ways of thinking about health, that instead of it introducing the idea of vitality, it's more on vanity or that self-reflection of, what did I do wrong? Or I'm not pretty enough, instead of thinking of it from a place of how do I want to feel so I can show up my best and do the best work that I can while I'm here. And so I just hear so much value in what you offer for anybody, whether they're a college student and older, to constantly rely on you, like you said, more than an accountability partner, but someone to help them make those shifts as it's required and needed.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
It is.
Yeah.
It's that noise that people hear. And you talk about that. Talk about why it's important to try to shut down the noise that's out there. I mean, there is value in information. I mean, we're putting out information that we feel is valuable and important for people to hear. But there are a lot of things that are out there that aren't valuable and aren't good and helpful. How do we navigate through all of that?
Yeah, that's a great question, because many of the people that I've worked with in the past want a quick fix. And I tell people, you didn't get here overnight. You're not going to heal overnight. But because our attention spans are like that of a bologna sandwich lately, we want something quick. We want the latest fad. And unfortunately, and I put this on my website too, if you want a quick fix, I'm not for you. I'm not for you. And I can give you little hints here and there, but what we need to do as a society and as individuals is we need to slow down and we need to listen. And if we listen to our bodies and find out what works and what doesn't, you're going to find out that this quick fix isn't going to work for everybody. And I think that's what we want, because faster and easier is, that's all the trend. But I really work with people on listening to what works for their bodies. And sometimes I usually offer options to people, and I'll offer an option that doesn't work. And I'll be honest, we'll come back and we'll shift and we'll say, okay, let's try this instead. Okay, that's better. Let's learn, from what works and from what doesn't work. And sometimes if you're not addressing the sleep, the exercise, the nutrition, the stress, and the relationships, if you're not addressing all of those things, those quick fixes aren't going to work. Like, you can try, to do these fad diets or whatever, but if you're not changing all the other things as well, you're not going to get far. So I really encourage people to listen to their bodies and start with the basics. Number one, it's going to save you some time and money. And number two, it's going to save you some frustration, because you're going to really listen, and we don't slow down enough as a society.
Oh, that's so true. That is so true.
Yeah.
Do you have some tools to help us slow down? What does that look like? How do we slow down?
Tracking. So I really encourage people to track your sleep, track your food, track your exercise and movement. I have an Aura ring that I wear that tracks my sleep for me, and it tracks my movement. I track my food, sometimes more meticulously than others, especially if I've got something going on. I'll be like, let me see what's going on here. And, oh, okay, you've been eating too much of gluten or something. Tracking is a way for you to slow down, because then you're paying attention to your habits. You're paying attention to how you feel. There's lots of apps out there now that people can use. I mean, if you're a person who journals, get a pretty journal and a great writing utensil, whether you like pencils, pens, colored pencils, but track what you're doing. And that's going to help you to slow down. And it's also going to illuminate for you what's working and what's not working. And that's where I always start with people is, let's do some tracking.
Let's talk about the tracking with your clients. When you have them do that, do they tell you, well, I ate this and then I felt bad? Can you give me some examples of how that works as you coach people? Because I think there's value in that. I know listen to your bodies. How do you feel after you've eaten this, drank that, went here, didn't get enough sleep? Kind of give us some examples of how that works with some of your clients.
Yeah. So I actually use an online platform called Practice Better, and they can track right in Practice Better. I have a couple that use MyFitnessPal, and they can share their information with me. So, for example, I have one client who she was eating out a lot. And when she stopped eating out a lot, she didn't feel that like afternoon slump that she was kind of feeling. So we noticed a difference there. I have another client who has some sensitivities to gluten and dairy. And there was this one meal that she ate when she ate out again, that next day she was having sinus issues and her allergies were bothering her. So we kind of tracked it back. We said, well, what did you do the day before? And she didn't connect that. Sometimes we'll notice that hydration is important. When people don't drink enough water, and also get enough electrolytes too, energy levels will often dip. Sleep is huge. I mean, sleep is a big one that a lot of people will, they'll notice that on the days they get better sleep, their mood is better. You think usually, oh, I get sleep, I have better energy, but also mood, it impacts our mood too. Trying to think of some other food type related things, but mostly like with food sensitivities, people notice that when they indulge on something that they typically shouldn't, they'll feel it the next day, or, it just kind of lingers in your body.
I think the tracking is the key, because we all just have days where we just feel off. Man, I just don't feel good today. Mm-hmm. Well, maybe had we been tracking, maybe had we been thinking intentionally about what we had done the day before, a couple of days before, where we ate, what we were doing, not getting enough sleep, then we could connect the dots so that we could not do that again, so that we didn't feel that way. Typically, sometimes just roll through life going, God, I just don't feel good today, or I'm just having an off day, or maybe it's my allergies or whatever, when really it could be a multitude of things that you just sort of mentioned. So I
Yeah.
think that shows the value in the coaching and helping someone through their journey of really pinpointing what's going on with me and how can I change it so I don't feel that way again.
And that's exactly the next step. So after I do tracking with people, then we focus on the planning. So now this is what you've been doing. Now let's plan. Let's be intentional about when we go to bed. Let's be intentional about our water intake, our exercise, and what we're putting into our bodies. And then it's like, then things start to fall into place. So, the tracking is the first piece, and it also helps us to slow down, and it illuminates what we've got going on. And people will say, I didn't realize, and this is kind of counterintuitive to what you would think, but there's so many women I work with that don't realize that they're not eating enough. So they're eating 2 small meals a day. One of them's yogurt with fruit, and then they eat a dinner. So if you're not eating enough and feeding your body enough, that's another sign too. So it's not always we have extra weight that we're carrying because we've overeaten or overindulged, but we're not feeding our bodies what it needs. And so along the way, I educate people on what comes to light as they do their tracking. Like, okay, let's talk about water. Let's talk about your nutrition. Let's talk about, your nutrients that you're getting in your body. So yeah, the tracking is key. And then it goes into planning.
It's good.
What have you found has been one of the biggest obstacles for individuals to make the changes that they need to make? Because I'm listening to you and I'm thinking, well, if we're hydrated and we have our electrolytes and we're sleeping well and we're cooking more than we are eating out and we're listening to our body, then we should all be feeling better. But then
Yes.
there's that thing that keeps us either distracted, or it's that obstacle from us making those impactful changes. What have you found has been one of the biggest obstacles for individuals? And how do
Our
you
brain.
help them with that?
Yeah, our brain. So I give the example of it's
So
our
you mean
brain
we
and our
can't turn it
mind.
off?
Yeah, well,
Okay, how do we fix this then?
Can
Because
I get a new one?
all right. So this is my story.
I love
So
it.
I always give my clients the Amazon story, and it's not my Amazon shopping story. So let's think of the Amazon River. Okay. So if you go in the Amazon River and you put your kayak or canoe in there, you're going to go with the flow because it's been there for millions of years or however long it's been there. Okay. So if you all of a sudden decide that you want to explore over there, another area, you're going to have to make your own path. Okay. So what you have to do is you have to get your machete out, and you're going to have to clear away all the jungle or whatever's there, and you're going to have to hack through things. And then you're going to gradually, there's going to be a new pathway. Okay. Our brains are the same way. So we have neural pathways in our brains that are set, that we've been doing things over and over and over again for years. In order to make change, you need to change your mindset. So my job is to help you get the machete out and create new pathways in your brain. So we think about research on habits and things like that, like tiny habits or atomic habits. So I work with people on creating habits that help them create that new pathway off the Amazon River. So the new tributary. And we can train our brains to think differently. So that's the biggest challenge that I see is our mindset and the way that our brains are, because you can do the same thing over and over again. This is how I eat. This is how I sleep. This is how I exercise. If you've been doing it the same way for decades, and now all of a sudden it's not working for you and you need to make a change, you've got to get your machete out and you've got to start hacking through and make new pathways in your brain. It's hard work.
Yeah,
So
it is hard work.
yeah, it really is. It really
It's
is.
almost
But
like
it's
when you're
doable.
driving and you have in your mind, if you've taken the same route over and over and you just,
Exactly.
but you don't mean to be going that way that particular day, but
Yeah.
you're like, whoa, I missed my turn.
Yeah.
Where's my brain? What am I thinking? It's just automatically in there. And that's sort of what you're saying. You have to be intentional about, oh, I need to pivot and go this way today. What is a strategy for doing that? How do we change that?
Yeah. I always say that I like to meet my clients where they're at. So if you are a person right now who's eating Chick-fil-A every day and you're having a couple glasses of wine every night to wind down, I'm not going to have you on an organic whole foods diet and no alcohol. No, we're going to make small shifts. Okay. So making small shifts is that visualization of the machete and you're breaking things down. We're going slow. And I like to do habit stacking too. So if you're already doing something good, let's just build on that. So if you know that every morning when you get up, you are going to walk your dog, okay? Maybe what we're going to do, or let's go back, let's rewind for a second and make one easier. Every morning you get up, first thing you do is you have your coffee. Okay, a lot of people do that. What I encourage you to do is while your coffee's brewing or while you're making your coffee, have a glass of water. So just hydrating before, like simple things like that. And then as people go through the program, we're going to take it up a notch and we're going to add a little apple cider vinegar or lemon to that water in the morning. Maybe we're going to increase, maybe right now, I've had some people that their exercise is a walk to the mailbox because that's all they can do. And then I did have one client, I'm so proud of her. She was one of the ones that it was walk to the mailbox. And then there's the bridge to bridge run that they have in Georgetown. Yeah. Okay. She walked the bridge to bridge run last March. So it's like, it doesn't happen overnight, but making small shifts, and it's got to be on their terms. So I like to offer 2, sometimes 3 options and say, which one would work best for you? Which one feels best for you? And then when you give somebody an option, then, we create that action plan and then we reflect on it.
Love that. I absolutely love that. I love that you shared. I think I just said love 4 times.
That's okay. We don't have enough love in the world.
Here it comes again, guys.
I was going to say, there's never enough love, Rachel.
There's never enough love.
That just resonated with me personally, and I'm sure our listeners, especially women right here listening to us today, it's so easy to get overwhelmed with trying to make a big shift or a big change or stop a habit. I love my coffee. I love the ritual of coffee. And I appreciate you sharing how habit change can be so simple and non-threatening. I think so often it feels threatening, like we're not going to be able to accomplish it and stay consistent with it. But while my coffee is brewing, I can absolutely have 8 ounces of water. And then what happens? You tell yourself or you show yourself that you can make small changes. And like you've shared, they add up to a really big impact.
Absolutely.
I appreciate you sharing that because I think so many times women especially feel overwhelmed with where they are and they throw their hands up in the air and go, well, this is just it. This is life. I can't change anything of what I'm doing. I have tried. I'm doing everything possible. And you come in and say, whoa, I'm going to meet where you are. And we're going to just continue doing what you're doing. But let's add something in between those habits that you already have. Yep. Do you, and I know you do, and I cannot wait to hear one of your client stories. Based off everything that you have shared, is there a client story that you would like to tell us about where they've made those simple changes that have yielded those big results?
Yeah, I wanted to know that too. I was thinking about the lady who went to the mailbox and then she does the 5K. I mean,
really?
How has her life changed? How has another client's life changed? I mean, it has to be so empowering for them once they get to that point. I don't know.
Yeah, I think that, one specific, I would say, and it really does, a lot of it comes back to the weight loss clients. I had one specific client who has PCOS. She was having, which is polycystic ovary syndrome, which looks very different for everybody. And we basically took a look at what her signs and symptoms were. We focused on eliminating some things out of her diet. And the biggest takeaway there was that, yes, she lost weight, but also her energy level was up. She could be more present for her children. She was so inspired. And it was just one of those things where she was listening to her body now, and she has a whole different outlook on life in general. I mean, it was just her getting in touch with her body, listening to her body, finding out what worked for her. And does she still have a ways to go? Yes, absolutely. But is she much more happy in her skin, which a lot of women aren't happy in their own skin? She's happy in her skin. She has, just the attitude has changed. Her whole attitude about herself has changed, and she can visualize what her life can be like and how she can be present at her job, for her family, for her kids going forward. And being a role model for kids going forward is huge too. But yes, there's most of the women are struggling with weight loss, and when they get to the point where they are listening to their bodies, that's when they are making those big shifts in their mindset, in their physical shape of their bodies. I mean, I've had people who, they'll come in and they'll have these pants on that are just like way too big, and I say, go home, clean out your closet and get rid of them. Don't go give yourself permission to go back to the size that you were before. If it's in the closet, it's a safe thing for you to say, oh, I can go back to these if I need to. Get rid of them, go buy new clothes. But I think the biggest shift that I see in people is how they feel about themselves. Because a lot of people come to me and they're not feeling so confident. They're not feeling like they want to go out and do things. And I think just achieving things like, walking the 5K is huge for somebody who couldn't walk to their mailbox.
That's so good. That's such a great piece of advice. Get rid of those things that you can't wear anymore. Don't even have them around. I mean, that in itself is taking up space mentally and physically in your home, but mentally in your mind. When you eradicate the things that you don't want to be anymore, you've got to keep moving forward. I think that's what I'm hearing from you. So I would be curious to know, is there a typical range of, I come in, I'm having X, Y, and Z. How long do I have to wait till I feel better, see a change? Because, we're, like you mentioned earlier, looking for the quick fixes. But what's realistic in a journey of going from, I want to lose 10 pounds, or I want to be able to walk farther than just to the mailbox, and back? Talk about that.
I really like to work with people in 3-month chunks. And this is kind of, before the show, we were talking a little bit about that 12 weeks is the magic.
Yeah.
I like to work with people in 3-month chunks of time. I do have a 3-month program that I take people through, and then they have an option to do another 3 months. But it takes a while to, number one, in the beginning, we like to reflect on where you are, do some goal setting, do some tracking. Then we start implementing things, and then we gradually make changes along the way. And 3 months is a good amount of time. And as far as weight loss goes, depending on who you are, like if you have 10 pounds to lose or you have 60 pounds to lose, it depends. But in order to make significant change, a consistent program for 3 months can get you pretty much started, because I do work very heavily on the mindset and habits. So it does take a while for that to change. Again, going down the Amazon River, you want to make those changes in your neural pathways in your brain. You've got to put in the work. So I like to work in 3-month chunks with my clients.
What does that look like for your clients? Do you meet with them in person? Is it virtual, over the phone? I know some coaching programs, they do text messaging. How do you communicate with your clients?
Yeah, so I do have an office here in Polly's, and I also do offer a virtual option. I work with my clients on Zoom. I have an online format called Practice Better that I mentioned before, where we can communicate too. There's text messaging in there, so I can check in on them. There's an email service, but typically most people will do weekly basis. And it's about a 30-minute or so conversation on a weekly basis, where we come in and say, okay, we check on all of those 5 areas. We make adjustments as needed. But in the beginning, I always start people off with what I call a clarity call. And this is a free 45-minute call where they can talk to me about what their goals are. And I walk them through that, and I let them know what it's like to work with me. And then we decide if we'd be a good match. And sometimes people are a good match and sometimes they aren't. I'm not afraid to tell people if they're not, because I had one woman who, she was sick with a lot of digestive issues and she didn't have a doctor locally. And I said, before you work with me, I need you to get a physician, because I didn't feel comfortable. I am not a doctor. I'm here to help you with your habits and things. So, but after that, people can decide if they want to work with me. And if they do, we go into goal setting, action planning, and shifting. We go through that GPS model. Some people choose to do weekly, some people choose to do bi-weekly, but I do offer in-person and virtual, because there's still, I had kind of toyed around with getting a space to meet people, but I do have some people who really want that face-to-face still, and I want to be able to offer that if possible.
Yeah. Clearly, you have found joy in this next season of your life with doing this sort of coaching.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I feel like it's when I was going through my yoga teacher training, I didn't know that I would cry during it, but the most emotional day for me was when they talked about your purpose. And at the time I was leaving teaching, and it was right before we moved down here to South Carolina, and I was like, what is my purpose? And over time I have realized that yes, at heart I am a teacher, and I want to educate people, and I want to coach them and help them be the best version of themselves.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Absolutely
Beautiful.
wonderful.
Yeah.
Thank you,
love that.
Maryann.
Thank you.
Nicole, can I ask my burning question?
Yes, we've just had so much information being shared today from you, Maryann, but Rachel likes to ask one final question of our guests. So here we go.
Shoot.
What is the one simple actionable step that we can start taking today to elevate our wellness journey?
After this conversation, I think that start tracking something. Just start writing down or tracking on your phone some aspect of your health. Maybe it's your sleep, whatever that area of your health is that you want to improve on. Just start tracking and bring light to what you're doing, because that'll help you to slow down, and it'll help you to look at yourself differently than just going through the motions. So I think tracking would be my suggestion for anybody who wants to do one simple thing.
Love it.
Maryann, how can everyone get a hold of you? Where can they reach you?
Yes, my website is www.maryannloucks.com. And also you can email me at info@maryannloucks.com. I'm on Facebook and Instagram also, Your Health Coach Maryann on Facebook. And I'd love to connect with anybody. And like I said, I offer everybody a free clarity call just to see what you've got going on. And sometimes it just helps to talk it out and have somebody who will listen to you. So I'd be happy to connect with any of the listeners that are interested in making one next step towards better health.
That's great. You've just been a wealth of information and knowledge for us today. Thank you so much for being our guest. I feel like I've learned a lot from you today. So thank you.
Well, thank you both so much. It's been so nice to meet you and chat with you today.
Thank you, Maryann. Hi, friends. Please leave us a 5-star review and let us know what you thought of today's episode. Share it with someone who needs a little inspiration and tell them why they should tune in to Elevate, your go-to resource for healthy living here in the Grand Strand.
Each week, we're cultivating conversations that inspire well-being, support the ebb and flow of coastal living, and help elevate our community's wellness journey.
Don't forget to join our newsletter, a culinary garden of resources, including our downloadable Wellness Made Simple with curated tips from our local wellness experts. You can click on the link in show notes to subscribe.
And of course, stay connected with us on YouTube at Elevate HEALTH-GRANDSTRAND and on Instagram and Facebook. You'll find those links in the show notes. We hope you enjoyed today's episode. The information provided in the Elevate podcast and associated materials is for general informational purposes only and is not intended as medical advice. No content should be considered a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always seek the advice of your physician or other qualified health provider with any questions you may have regarding a medical condition or treatment. Reliance on any information provided by Elevate, its host, guest, or contributors is solely at your own risk. We encourage you to consult with a healthcare professional before making any significant changes to your diet, exercise, or wellness routine. Ultimately, your health and well-being are unique to you, and it's important to make informed decisions based on your individual needs.